Welcome to Podadelphia. My name is Dave Diorio. You can find me on Twitter at @fat_lobster. And I am joined by two Kofefe Champions League qualifiers. What's up, Sarah and Gene?
Hey, Dave. Hey, Gene. Hey, Concafo, Cup. CONCACAF. I mean, I can stare at it and still not pronounce it right. Like, if someone offered me, Sarah, here's $300, pronounce it right first shot, I'd just be like, keep your money. Keep your money. And if you don't know what we're talking about the Union. And if you don't know who I am Sarah Siders. You can find me on Twitter at Sarah Siders. You can find the show at Podadelphia.
And I'm Gene Zelak. You can see the beard is back. I'm rocking the Flyers playoff beard. So I'm not really sure how long it's going to last. But way to go, Union. It's sort of exciting that we're starting the show with them in a way. Actually, probably the thing I'm most curious to learn about this week was Dave's adventure going to actually see a Union game. So I know you were there for the home opener, but I'm producer Gene. You can find me there you can find me at that name on Twitter. You can find the show at Podadelphia because I'm going to keep doing this bit.
So I had purchased one of those New Year's 4-packs. And I was being a really annoying nudge to the Union ticket office trying to find out hey, can we get to a game? I got a lot of baseball games I'm going to. The kids got Little League. I want to figure out a game that will work on our schedule. And the ticket, whoever was working the chat, actually, I know his name. I just won't divulge it here, but it was really great. Really helpful. Super guy called me out of the blue on Friday night and was like, hey, we got a bunch of cancellations for the home opener, probably because it was supposed to rain the entire time. Would you be interested? And I was like, sure. Let's try it out. So I got my tickets for the home opener, which was awesome. I will say my experience there is very different from going to Citizens Bank Park. There's a lot more COVID-related restrictions going to Subaru Park than it is going to Citizens Bank. So just for those that are interested in going to a Union game, they will be taking your temperature when you go through the gates. It is a wrist temperature, so it's really not that big of a deal. But if you have a 100.4 or higher, you will have to go to a cool down area for 15 minutes, and then they will take your temperature again. And if it's still at 100.4 or above, you won't be allowed into the park.
Wait, I need to know more about this cool down area. Are there fans? Is there this thing? Is it to game the system?
No, I didn't get to experience it, but from what my understanding was, it's just go stand over there for 15 minutes and we'll take your temperature again. It wasn't misting fans or, ice cold Coca-Colas for you to drink or anything like
pickle
that.
Juice. Maybe some pickle juice. I'm surprised that it wasn't one of those things where I guess what they're trying to mitigate is if you're sprinting with excitement and joy towards the gate and
maybe
you get your body temperature up. They're like, look, we understand you're excited that you need to be inside the park, but if you could just cool down for a few minutes.
Or maybe you're just, your heart's racing walking through Chester.
Well, I have to say I would probably be in danger because I just run hot. So
Gene runs hot. There is one-way walking roped off. So, you go clockwise around the stadium and on one side and counterclockwise on the other. So that's different than Citizens Bank. And the last thing, which was sort of, I will say it's kind of stupid to even try it. You're supposed to be dismissed at the end of the game by sections. So they say after the game, please remain seated, and we will call your section to leave the facility. Everyone was just like, F this, and they got up and left. So there wasn't, what can you do?
I tried that once in 5th grade and got detention.
What's that?
I said I tried that once in 5th grade and I got detention. You're supposed to wait until your
Well, there's nothing they could do with several thousand people. So
they need to import some nuns. Bring in some nuns. They'll straighten that out.
Yeah, if you don't behave, you can kneel on these Bibles until halftime.
Yeah, it was a good game. The Union were up 1-0, and then they kind of saw that lead kind of disappear towards the end of the second half, and they lost 2-1. But it was fun. It was a good night. The rain held off. Everyone was happy, for the most part, although they didn't win. It was a good time. Good. Highly recommend Union games. They're fun. So,
what did you think of seeing a professional soccer game? Did you think that it offered you more than what you get on TV?
Yeah, I do. It's it's one of those sports where the good seats aren't great. We were 4 rows off of the pitch, but we were in a corner, so you really couldn't see. And the Union just scored. You really couldn't see what was going on at the other end of the field, so you kind of just go, okay. You kind of watch the field and the Jumbotron, which was showing the game live, to kind of get perspective on what's going on, where it is, and so that was cool. It was really neat to see corner kicks from down on the field level. It was pretty neat, and Andre Blake is just incredible. And now they go back to the CONCACAF tournament tonight, and they're playing in Atlanta, and they just took a 1-0 lead. Shabilko just scored off of a set piece where they really were just under attack the entire first half, and Blake made some just stunning saves. Check the highlights if you're not watching the game tomorrow morning, because it's just, he's a really underappreciated Philly athlete.
And this is the semifinal of the tournament?
I think it is, and I think I think there's.
I think it's the quarters. I think it's the quarterfinals.
Yeah, and I think there's 6 MLS teams or 5 MLS teams
that are
left in. Yeah, really, it should be basically all MLS. But
who's all involved? Isn't it the Mexican Professional League too that plays in the?
Yeah, it's from my understanding, it's North America. I don't know. You may have Canadian, you may have Jamaican, I don't know if the Caribbean has a league or not, but I would think that they would be included.
And then they'd have to qualify.
They'd have to qualify. I don't know what leagues qualify or, what it takes to qualify into it. I'm assuming that the Union were invited because they were the Supporters Shield winners of the MLS.
Yeah, I think it's the top 5 finishers of the league that make it in.
Yeah, that would make sense. That's very similar to what goes on to the Champions League in Europe.
Look at us leading with football. It has nothing to do with the Eagles.
For the second time in 3 weeks. Because it's just a little quirky enough to get into my intro.
And since we are recording this and streaming this live, I'll give an update. The Flyers just tied it up. I'm falling on the grenade and watching the most meaningless game of the evening.
Gene, let us know when the Phillies tie it up. And then
I have no access at the moment. The only thing I can watch is YouTube. So you have to feed the information to me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get to it. I titled this episode for streaming purposes, "The Odubel Tolls for Thee." And Odubel Herrera, whether you love it or hate it, is back in the lineup. Or I don't know, is he playing tonight? He was back in the lineup yesterday.
He played yesterday.
He is playing tonight.
He is, and did nothing. Correct.
Last night he did not get a hit, but he did make a pretty decent play in the field to end the game, I thought. So he did contribute on defense.
I'm sure Roman Quinn could have made that catch.
Probably.
All right, so here's where here's the line in the sand, right? This is where you have to, either stick to your guns or, fold a little bit here. The Phillies, I believe, really did everything they could to avoid bringing up Odubel Herrera. And if any of these guys, Hazley, Moniak, Quinn, was just bad, Odubel would still not be on the big club.
Right.
Yeah.
But because they are epically bad, like negative WAR bad, the Phillies had, like, quote unquote, no choice. I mean, you of course could choose to just press on with absolutely no productivity and just horrible center field play, or you could say, okay, what do we have left at our disposal? Okay, well, let's give Odubel a chance. What are your thoughts?
I mean, if you're going to have him in your organization, which is a big if, you run the risk of having to play him. If you can't just go, we're going to leave him with the, it's not the Iron Pigs, it's the like practice squad or whatever. We'll leave him off the big club, but he's just there to keep the union happy. But he's in your organization, and I don't like it. I don't want to root for the guy, and I mean, I guess I'm not rooting for the guy. I'm not really watching, but if you're going to give him another chance, you have to give him another chance. If you are saying, well, he's still in this organization because he's been suspended and we need to give him a chance to redeem himself. If you mean that at all, you have to give him a chance. And I don't know if we've ever talked about before on the podcast. I feel like we might, so forgive me if I'm being repetitive. But the idea of, keeping an abuser out of the lineup, isn't as cut and dry as it feels like. It feels like it's the easy thing to do. It's like, this guy did something horrible. He's done. We're not going to pay him. We're going to, keep him off our team, potentially end his livelihood. And facts tell us that's not good for the person being abused. That's doesn't lead to necessarily good things at home. So who are you protecting? Are you taking a moral stance and then going, is it all for show? Are you trying to protect the victim? And I'm talking in circles here because are you negotiating with terrorists? Are you going to go, well, if we leave Odubel off the team, he's just going to be mad and abuse his wife or girlfriend, or I forget what their relationship is. We got to keep the abuser happy. Well, that's horrible. You can't function that way. So the long story short is I hate it. I wish we weren't in this situation, but we are. So let's see what happens, and let's hope there's some part of this dude that has been redeemed, that he has made amends, that he has done something to really merit another chance. But I mean, I don't know.
Well, what is going on? I mean, when Michael Vick was brought in here, he served a prison sentence. I don't know, like I don't recall like how long, or if it was like
I think it was almost 3 years.
Stint. I mean, he was, therapy, donating money, going out and doing speaking engagements and all this stuff. I don't know what Odubel's doing, and I don't know what sort of debt he's paid other than serve an 85-game suspension and basically sit out a 60-game season. And I don't know. I don't want to watch him. I don't want to cheer for this guy. And I don't know what my feelings are going to be the first time it's a tie game and he puts one in the seats. I mean, how am I supposed to reconcile that as a fan? Of course I want the team to win. But like, not like that for me. I don't love it. I saw, I was at the game where Moniak hit a 3-run homer, and I thought it was pretty cool, pretty exciting. I get that he may not be ready or the long-term solution, but I'd rather have moments like that than the inverse where Odubel's putting one in the seats and I don't know how I'm supposed to feel.
I will say this. if there are some positives to take away from this, it's that it has at least started probably some conversations in places where this issue doesn't come up nearly as seriously or as often as it should, even if it is in the context of, do you support somebody that would do this sort of thing to another person? And it maybe will have you reflect on how you feel about people that treat their partners this way, whether it's somebody in your family, somebody that you know, or somebody that you root for on a baseball team. I think that there was opportunities that have been missed here by not only the organization, but by maybe the player himself. I don't know if the organization sort of was like, let's keep this quiet, like don't bring attention to it, like let's just sort of press on. But the organization itself, there was no reason why, even without having to specifically say why they were moving in that direction, but why wasn't there some sort of a show of support, whether it was financial or like whatever, where they interacted with organizations that assist in dealing with domestic abuse? You're not going to convince me that there wasn't any lack of opportunity to go out into the community and outreach. You know, even if it was, we held an auction with some Phillies stuff to support a domestic abuse. You know what I mean? Like, how hard would that have been to have these guys that are going to be his teammates sign some balls, sign some bats, raise some money, you know what I mean? Invite some dignitaries, you know what I mean? Like that, to me, they do these things for charities and organizations that, you know, all the time. Why not use this opportunity to sort of show that, yes, we have this happen in our organization. This is our way, even if it's a small way, of trying to use this to put more positivity back into the community. I haven't seen anything like that. It doesn't mean that it's not going to happen eventually. I feel like that would be the sort of thing where if I'm a fan of the Phillies, I can be like, well, at least I see the organization is not blind or ignorant to what the fans are experiencing. Because I really think that most fans are conflicted in some way. I certainly wouldn't be I'm not the type of person that's going to come out and say, like, I would rather the Phillies lose than have this person on the team. That's not true. I don't want the Phillies to lose. I don't necessarily want to cheer for this particular player either. I would be perfectly fine if he never played on the team. I also don't fault the organization. They literally tried everything, at least to they reasonably tried to progress through the season without having to bring this player up. I'm hoping that this is not their permanent solution for center field. I really hope that there is some point in the not too distant future where they are able to bring in a player who is clearly a step above him for a lot of reasons. For one reason is that then he's no longer needed. For another reason is then the team gets better. So that is something that I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for him to become obsolete. I think that would be the best for everyone. You know, he is not such a good player that I'm going to miss his productivity. He wasn't such a charismatic player that I'm going to miss his miss him being on the team. But
what
needed to do something.
Let me ask this: what is good enough Odubel play to make it worth the I don't know, the moral soul selling that you have to do to get yourself to root for the team to get to root for him, right? So last year, not last year, let's say 2019, before all the stuff came out, he was hitting 222 with an on-base percentage of 288. Is that good enough play above what Hazley, Quinn, Moniak were giving you to say, okay, yes, I don't know, compromise my moral compass to have Odubel play with those types of numbers?
Not for me. I don't know if there's a number. I suspect that there isn't. For me, I would love to see some sort of contrition, some sort of making of amends, and I don't know if I believe it. Gene, when you were talking, it's like, oh, the team should do this or that or whatever efforts that'd be easy to do, and then part of me would look at it and go, oh, well, is this genuine? Like, do they care? Or is it just to buy good PR?
But they didn't even do that, though. But they aren't even looking at getting good PR. I think that's what's frustrating to me is, like, I would rather be saying, like, questioning whether it's genuine or not, rather than being like, where is it?
That's an excellent point. I 100% agree. That's a conversation I'd much rather be having right now. But there's not going to be any level of production that's going to make me like rah go. Well,
let me kind of maybe I phrased the question wrong, and I put it towards like you as opposed to what the Phillies. How the Phillies should feel about it. Look, obviously, they said, okay, well, the center field play sucks. We're going on a road trip. Let's make this move now so we don't get like destroyed by the 11,000 fans that are going to be if they even would. I don't even know. Judging by Twitter, it's a tough call at this point. But if we come off the road trip and he's 0 for 16, do they say, okay, well, this isn't worth it, then let's go back to what we were messing around with before? Or do you think they'll press on and say, okay, well look, we've ripped the Band-Aid off. Let's just stick with it.
I'm more cynical. I think they've ripped the Band-Aid off, unless there's another incident of abuse that comes to light.
Which is not a non-zero.
Oh, no. And notice how quickly I said that comes to light. Abusers abuse. They do. I wish that weren't the case, but very few people do something as awful as abuse their wife, their spouse, their girlfriend, their whomever, and go like, once was enough for me. No, it's a problem. It's a compulsion. It happens. So I think the point you were getting at, Dave, is that they've already pulled off the Band-Aid. The negative press is not going to get worse. They've already, suffered the brunt of it. I mean, when he was called up, Glenn Macnow said, well, he's paid his dues. He's done whatever, let him get a second chance. I'm like, oh, like you said, Dave, what the hell did he do? But I think the Phillies would be perfectly happy for any sort of production, in center field. And they'd be perfectly happy for any production out of Odubel and hope people forget about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's move on to like a couple brighter stories. Mayton.
Nick Mayton.
Mayton. Where'd this guy come from?
He's a minor leaguer. He was a AAA guy. I think he was supposed to come through as a possible, I think maybe natural third baseman, and then got blocked by Alec Bohm. I think he started moving around to some of the other parts of the infield. I don't think he's played. Has he played shortstop yet? I know he's played a lot of second base because Gene Segura's out.
Right.
But there has been some conversations that they've.
Well, he has been playing shortstop because Bamboo Brad's been playing second base because Didi was also out for a while.
Okay, yeah. So he seems like he can probably field both middle infield spots, but
can he play center field is the question.
Well, more interestingly, I think maybe at this point is they've been setting him out pregame with an outfielder's glove. I really think that they might be looking at him more at
left,
trying to keep him in the lineup and left. I think that we are not far away from, if not a very serious reduction in Andrew McCutchen's play time, but like maybe a full platoon where you'll see where he won't hit against left-handed pitching at all, or right-handed pitching, I guess. Yeah, he's a right-hander.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think that's what they're saying is that he's basically in a platoon now with Brad Miller.
Right. Well, because Brad Miller's producing and Andrew McCutchen just isn't. I tend to believe that McCutchen is been in the game long enough, and he's only 34 years old, that he will be able to work himself out of whatever is going on. It is a small sample size. I think that he's a professional baseball player, been doing it long enough. He'll figure out how to be productive again. Will he have MVP?
Kutch is only 34?
Yeah, he's only 34. Yeah, it feels like he's been in the league for a long time. But I think he came in the league when he was 20 or 21. And he's had some mileage on his body. So, but he's not like to the point where you have to remember, guys like Pete Rose and stuff played into their mid-40s. It's not unheard of for some of these professional athletes to be able to work out some things and be able to still stay productive well into their 40s. I wish that the NL for these sorts of things had a DH, because then you could sort of keep people's bats in the lineup, but not necessarily have them in the field. I think that's sort of the other thing that's happened with Andrew McCutchen.
Bat?
What? Well, what more to the point is his defense has become a liability. You can keep him in the lineup to work it out, but would also not to have him in left field.
Yeah, him and Brad Miller are like Tweedledee and Tweedledum out there with the play. I mean, and it's funny because if you listen to the broadcast on the radio today, they brought it up. It's like, yeah, they're not getting errors charged to them, but it's
because they're not getting anywhere near the ball.
Not good play either. I mean, they're getting favorable scoring decisions and things like that, but it's just not good outfield play.
Yeah, you're not getting errors, but you're not getting errors because you're nowhere near the ball to make a play on it to screw it up. You know what I mean? You're just not where you're supposed to be. That should be an error. It is an error mentally, but it's not charged with an error. But I mean, thankfully, there's been other parts of the lineup right now that are sort of keeping the Phillies at 500. If they were to be clicking all at once, there's a chance that this team could be gaining some ground. Nobody in the NL East seems to want to really step out and be the guy right now.
And this is what I said. Like a couple of weeks ago. Everyone's going to be 500 at the end of the month. And probably everyone's going to be 500 at the end of May. And then things are going to warm up. Offenses are going to get going. And then we're going to see really what it's all about. And we have a compromised bullpen right now. Also, did you know we have the worst bullpen ERA in Major League Baseball again?
Well, I just feel like nothing ever changes. Maybe that's just how I feel now. It's just
I think it's like 5. Now. It's up to 5 and change now after the massacre in Colorado.
I have to interrupt real quick though. For me, I believe that we have the worst bullpen statistically in Major League Baseball, but it feels so much better than last year. I don't know why, but
give it time.
Sick.
Give it time.
I'm not saying it was healthy. I'm not saying it was a good thing. I'm just saying that it doesn't feel like an instant loss. It doesn't feel like, well, we're into the bullpen. That was fun.
Well, we lost two like key pieces pretty early, and I think a lot of these inflated stats have come since we lost.
Is David Robertson coming back?
Oh God, I hope not. Talk about a terrible contract. But I mean, there are some positives we can talk about with the Phillies, right? A couple of things. Rhys Hoskins, as of last night, I don't know if it's changed today, is leading all of Major League Baseball in home runs with 8, and then a multitude at 7. And Bryce Harper, I don't know. I mean, the guy just gets on base. I mean, the guy has been scorching hot. He's had a couple multi-home run games, a couple of 3-for-3 games with a walk. He's just being as advertised right now, and I think that really your 3, 4, 5 hitters are sort of what's keeping you or 3, 4s. Where is Hoskins batting in the lineup right
2.
now? 6? Oh, he's batting 2. So you're 2, 3, 4.
Well, he has been. I don't know where he's at anymore.
Yeah, but he usually
he's been pretty consistently too.
Yeah, so 2, 3, 4 have been what's been producing for you. And if you could get anything out of right now you're basically going 8, 9, 1 as 3 outs. You know what I mean? It's terrible. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with the leadoff man. I think we sort of said you might see Odubel go there. I was hearing on the radio yesterday a lot of people advocating for putting Harper at the leadoff spot so that he could get the extra at bat. I don't like the idea where you're going to not have him be able to have as many RBI opportunities. I think that's more important for where he hits.
Well, how often is in the first inning Harper comes up and McCutchen and Hoskins are on base? It's never. It's
not,
like
not
never
very
because
often.
Rhys
I
is
mean,
either striking
Hoskins
out
used
or
to
hitting a
walk
home
lot
run.
more than he has this season, but his on base, he was a pretty good on base guy. But I was more thinking of like if you've got the 8-hole in the pitcher in front of Harper, it's going to be even less that you're going to see him with guys on base.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Well, and for me, it's just so it's so antithetical to baseball logic.
Gene Coonrod just came into the game.
Yeah, Sarah, do you not catch that reference?
I did not.
Didn't you ever watch Thundercats?
I did.
Yeah. Coonrod is Moon-Ra. In my head. So, he is now Coonrod, the ever living.
So like Mum-Ra.
This is a really obscure fan group where we all dress up like Mum-Ra.
Wait. Like skinny, like pre-transformation Mum-Ra?
I think you have to have
like jacked.
Yeah. Both.
Okay.
Depending on your physique.
Was your train of thought interrupted?
It was
by this very strange tangent.
Yeah. Also, I flipped on the Phillies, so I was watching the Cardinals extend their lead. But yeah, Harper and Hoskins have been real bright spots, especially Rhys. I mean, Harper, Gene, you said he's been living up to expectations, or truth in advertising, or some phrase like that. But
right.
And he has, but he's been pretty damn consistent since he's been here.
Yeah.
And Rhys, I love him, but he's very streaky, and I still think he's very streaky. But my God, this streak he's on now is so much fun to watch, and just seeing that confidence when he approaches the plate. You're just waiting to see what happens next. You're just waiting to see, okay, how many is he going to hit tonight? So that's been a lot of fun.
I can take streaky. I think that what I felt with him last year, and to a certain degree, there's a difference between streaky and looking lost. And there were times where it looked like he either had the wrong approach or no approach. Right now, he's being real aggressive. He's jumping on pitches, and I think that he could sort of adjust back maybe to being a little bit more, if he starts to feel like he's to get out of a slump or something, he could change his approach up and start taking more pitches again. He was always good at getting on base. He was always good at getting his walks, which I think is why he's a has made it all the way up to where he is. There's a lot of guys that can hit the ball hard, but they strike out 1,000-to-1 ratio. We saw a guy that was in the organization last week with Darren Ruff, who is out in San Francisco now. That's a guy who can run into 7 fastballs a year. But, do you want a guy who's going to strike out 400 times and hit you 8 home runs? They may be 500-foot home runs, but, he's just not ever going to be a guy that's going to be able to get you much else.
But Rhys has been – he's a notorious count worker, and, he's had – seasons of 100+ walks for sure. And I think pitchers now are saying like, okay, well, that's it. We're not going to give him free passes anymore. And Hoskins is adjusting and saying, okay, well, I'm going to swing then if you're not going to throw balls. And then, he hits homers. So,
right. So you might see it sort of become the chess match where pitchers which is just going to be, it's going to be who's going to catch up faster.
Well, it is a game of over 162 games. You're going to have a lot of those phases of adjustments, and Nick Maton's seeing that now. He's seeing a ton of breaking pitches anymore, and he's just not able to groove those fastballs anymore. He's a low strikeout guy from his time in the minors, but it's a different story in the major leagues.
Right.
So we'll see how those adjustments go. Anything else Phillies worthy we needed to talk about? Check my notes here. Oh, I do. There was a tweet that I wanted to float by you guys to see what you thought. Liz Rocher from Yahoo Sports and formerly of The Good Fight tweeted, the Phillies are in year 4 of we're serious about competing now. No, really. Yet everything they do feels like they're still a team emerging from the darkness of a rebuild. Different managers, different regimes, but it all feels the same, like there's been zero progress. Do you feel like it's been zero progress?
That's a good question. It's not the progress we want. It's a damning assessment, and I was inclined to disagree, but the more I think about it, I don't think there's been zero progress, but I'm hard pressed to put my finger on the progress that has been made.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that they haven't really hit the right button. I think personally, what the issue is that they keep trying to maybe do what they think is the easy decision to get competitive fast, and really their problem is much more deeply rooted. And I mean, and it's maybe the problem that's been the Phillies the entire history of their franchise is that they do not grow from within successfully. And when they have in their past, they've won World Series championships. You know what I mean? When they've been able to home grow their core and then sort of bring in auxiliary pieces from the outside, they've been able to, because baseball takes time. You have to have, in 2008, it was the culmination of a team growing together and figuring it out. Same thing in 80 when you had the late 70s runs where it was a team that grew together and figured it out. The only way you can do that is to have guys sort of come into their primes at the same time together. I'm hoping that by keeping JT and Bryce together right now, sort of in their prime, and maybe Rhys Hoskins is starting to emerge, maybe you can sort of luck your way into something similar. But you had to pay a lot of money to Bryce Harper and JT Realmuto to get that sort of ingredient, rather than have it sort of grow from within, where you're adding a Bryce Harper.
Of course, and that's why these guys like Bohm really needs to be the answer.
Yeah.
We really need a couple more of those guys to emerge and say, like, yeah, you're an actual piece here. I mean, you think about, and this is why I kind of wanted to talk about this tweet, because I feel like a couple of years ago we were in this Rhys, JP Crawford, Jorge Alfaro, Roman Quinn. There was some other dude that was like an outfielder that was supposed to be some hot shit, and nothing. Like Rhys is something, but everything else was like nothing. We were a million guys away from being a couple of guys away. Now I think we actually are closer. But the one thing, and yeah, Moniak and Hazley have been very disappointing, but Moniak's still super young, though, I think. There's still time for Moniak. Hazley's a little bit weird. He's more of a professional hitter now than Moniak is, and hopefully he comes back soon and we get to see a little bit more of him and what he can do. But I think the organization really got regressed to the Stone Age with Klentak. If Klentak was never hired and we actually hired a professional GM with baseball experience, a baseball guy with baseball experience who hired a manager with baseball experience, we would be a lot further ahead than we are now. And I think that was the one huge mistake in this whole rebuild moving into we're contenders, was that GM move.
And I think that the other thing that we're sort of experiencing in other teams, probably to a same degree, but because we were already so far behind the 8 ball, I mean, the last season and a half, maybe we have not really had the same sort of development that you would have. There has been no minor league games competitive system. They're at an alternate site, basically doing extended spring training. There is nothing that really – the reason why baseball has had the minor league system for as long as it has is because it works. There is a way that you can develop players through that system of competition because they're all competing for the jobs of getting to the big show. It's not necessarily about rings in AAA, but it is about, jumping off the page and making yourself marketable and appealing to the big club to come and help. And, maybe Moniak with a full season last year under his belt, maybe he does become more of a realistic option in center field. Maybe, maybe Maton would have seen a lot more curveballs in AAA last year. Who knows? But they need to figure out a way to get some younger players. They need to figure out a way to scout in other places like Japan and in Latin America. They need to figure out a way, if you can't get them drafted out of high school and get them into your system where you can get them, within 4 to 5 years, you better figure out a way to get into winter ball in the Dominican Republic and find a diamond in the rough. But you know what I mean?
But Gene, is it too late for that? We're if we can't call up people from the farm system now, it's too late to plant crops to torture the farm analogy. It's time to harvest is now. And
yeah, but I mean, if you don't plant at some point, you're never going to have a crop. They really need to be working it.
And I don't disagree. That's the right way to do it. But we've spent the Phillies have spent a lot of money to win now. And can you really take that step back to go?
Yeah, because it takes 4 or 5 years to develop a player.
Yeah. So
if you're talking about 3 or 4, unless they're all coming from the same draft, you're going to have a timing issue with, players like JT and, Wheeler and Nola and things like that. Chris Dunn here makes a in the Eagles analogy. So, but, and I, a little tongue in cheek there, but the philosophy is the same. Are you listening to your scouts? Are your scouts bad or are you not listening to them? And I don't know. I get the sense that they they hear the scouts, but they don't listen to them. And they really want to deal with analytics. And they want to be this trendy, we're the Oakland A's kind of thing. We're playing Moneyball here and all that stuff. And, it's just well, why don't you listen to your scouts every once in a while and just pick the obvious player? Yeah,
I don't know how much analytics works when you're looking at high school kids. Someone's production could be as much a product as the pitching they're facing.
Yeah, well, who knows? They could be looking at launch angles and I don't know, prorated exit velo. Who the hell knows?
Well, I think analytics best translates to baseball because it's the most the events are the most insular. You have a batter, you have a pitcher, something happens, pause, next pitch, something happens, pause, next pitch. It's really easy to break it down into its smallest parts. But does that replace the eye test of a scout to go look at that kid's mechanics?
Yeah. I still just think if the Clentac thing didn't happen, we'd be in a much better place right now. We got about 10 minutes left. I want to talk about a couple of Flyers points before we close. And Sarah, I wanted to talk about this last week. We ran out of time. I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Is the issue with the Flyers lack of accountability at the tippy top? With no Ed Snyder anymore and the googly Comcast monster running the Flyers. And I heard this point brought up, are they more concerned with gritty and marketing and TV money and things like that than they are about putting a quality hockey team on the ice and winning a fucking Stanley Cup for this goddamn city?
I don't agree with the last point, just because to make the Flyers a good investment, they have to win. They have to win. The reason why you'd want to buy the Flyers when Comcast did is because they made the playoffs every year. They were sold out all of the time. And gritty is great and all, and the theme nights are great and all, but they don't replace this winning culture, this losing is unacceptable culture that kept fans loyal throughout the years. And the loss of Ed Snyder is palpable. It's at the very least, I don't have confidence that losing is unacceptable. When Ed Snyder was alive, you would never go, well, no one in the Flyers organization cares. Somebody cares. Somebody cares very much, has probably been fined by the league for what he said about referees, is going into that locker room, is making a scene in the stands. Ed Snyder cared, and the buck stopped with him.
Right. So who evaluates if Chuck Fletcher's doing a great job? Dave Scott?
I guess so, yeah. Because Chuck Fletcher is not just the GM, he's also the president. But
I feel like if there's a decision to decisions at this point will be cost benefit analyses over this is what's best for the team.
I kind of agree, but I think what's your cost benefit analysis is going to say winning is best, and but there's no safety net, Dave. You're right. There is no Ed Snyder to go, screw it, we will operate at a deficit for 5 years. I want to win my damn cup.
Right.
There's nobody in the organization to say that. Hopefully, it's Chuck Fletcher. And this year is so hard to evaluate. It really, really is. And people are talking, Chuck Fletcher is not going to do things, and he just wants to stay the course. And there's just no reason to believe that yet. We have no proof that he's going to make dramatic changes, but there's no reason to believe that he's just going to sit on his hands.
I guess at the time will tell. I just think it was an interesting theory.
No, I don't know if it's an interesting theory, but it's a very real fear of mine. I can be rational. I try to be level-headed. I try to bring a lot of perspectives. But the fact that when Ed Snyder was around, you knew that losing was unacceptable. You knew that somebody was holding the team accountable to this Flyers culture. And why did we all love Alain Vigneault when he came in? How did he win the city over? It was that behind-the-scenes video where he told his players, be a fucking Flyer.
Right.
Well, look at the team this year.
Yeah.
Outside of the veterans, a couple handful of veterans, who's being a fucking Flyer? These guys are coming up short. And when Snyder was here, you would go, all right, that's going to change. Either these guys are going to get their act together, or they're going to spend way too much money or too much assets to bring in Chris Pronger, to get the best free agent, to do something that it may be stupid. It might be bad for the long run, but damn it, the short run, the Flyers are going to be competitive.
Well, if it's an issue, it's a major issue, because the Flyers will never be a privately owned entity probably ever again.
No, they won't. But I do think, Comcast doesn't lose money. They're not in this to lose money.
And I do think that they would prefer. They obviously would prefer the Flyers win the cup. You're talking about an organization that's put a little Billy Penn on top of their buildings.
Yeah.
To lift curses and things like that. So I do believe that Comcast cares about the city of Philadelphia and wants them to do well. I just don't know that they're willing to do everything necessary.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. It's something that's been in the back of my head since shortly after Ed Snyder died, was that they almost need like the Flyers chairman. Chairman Ed Snyder, that was always his title, just go to like, hey, Holmgren retired. I think Holmgren kind of was that torchbearer, and hopefully it can be Chuck Fletcher. Yeah. Hopefully he cares, has enough of a hockey sense and a sense of history to go, hey, you can carry the torch for Ed Snyder. Maybe it's his team president. Maybe you're not going to be GM forever, but somebody to go, unacceptable, reboot, do whatever you have to win. And hopefully, I'm hoping that they're going to find a team president. Hopefully it's Chuck Fletcher. If it's not Chuck Fletcher, hopefully it's somebody else to go win at all costs. Have some damn pride. I hope it's all I can do is hope right now because there's just too much unknown.
All right, let's end on a little happier note. Claude Giroux moves into number 3 all-time points in Flyers history. What does this mean?
It's a nice signal to show to the common fan or the Giroux doubter, not necessarily the Giroux hater, but to show to the fans where the Flyers are their 4th favorite team out of the 4 majors in Philly, or they watch the playoffs only or only watch when they're good. It's a nice little touchstone to go, hey, just so you know, Giroux is really good. You can see his place in history at number 3. And the fact that, being second all time in points, provided he's here next year, is going to happen next season.
Right.
He added another goal tonight in a losing effort. The Flyers ended up losing 6-4. Yeah, I know, but it's a really nice touchstone. It's a moment for people to hopefully appreciate Giroux, and maybe outside the diehard, outside of the people who love Giroux like I do, that they can go, get a little more perspective that this guy is really good. He is something special. He's a big, big part of Flyers history.
Yeah, I mean, it's not all about championships, especially in a sport like hockey or really any team sport. Sometimes you're just sort of a product of your environment and the players and the pieces that are put around you. And I know, like, I poke fun at Giroux all the time. Actually, it's probably poking more fun at you, Sarah, than I am.
You're poking fun at me. Yeah, you're torturing me. For those who don't know, it pops up occasionally on the show, but I cannot send a text or a chat or whatever about Giroux without Dave immediately saying something snarky. It happened right before recording tonight. Giroux got another goal, and Dave, without missing a fucking beat, goes, oh, yeah, put him in the net now that the season doesn't matter.
Yeah, meaningless games, he fills it up.
Yeah.
Which is totally unfair because he's scored plenty of high-profile goals in key situations in Flyers history.
I mean, he literally won a Stanley Cup Finals game in overtime with a goal.
I mean, to be intellectually honest, I recognize that he's a Hall of Famer and an all-time great Flyers. So it's really just like a bunch of needling. So, yeah, I mean, you definitely can have a Hall of Fame player on your team and not win a championship. And it's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate that he was wasted.
Yeah, it's regardless of what happens next, there is the Flyers have to win a cup before Giroux retires. Yeah, and they might, but it's not how it felt last year. Last year, it felt like the window is open.
Yeah.
There's a real shot that this can happen before his career is over. Now, I have no idea what this offseason is going to bring. So
next year is going to be super, what an interesting year next year is going to be. I don't even.
Not only next year, I said before, the year after next. Because if the Flyers make the playoffs next year, let's say they even go to the Eastern Conference Finals, well, they make the playoffs every other year. That's not anything new. You gotta make the playoffs 2 years in a row. So next year's only going to show us that even if they're great, if they don't win the cup, or make the Stanley Cup Finals. Stanley Cup Final, it doesn't show us that much because that's the good year. It's like your even number Star Treks. In your even number years, the Flyers are good. In the odd numbers, they're bad.
Hey,
well, I'll tell you what.
Wait. Before we do that, real quick, gun to your head, what position do you guys want to draft? Do the Eagles draft on Thursday?
Oh my God!
Not a player. What position?
I have no hard thought. I think it's just there's so many needs on this team. It's best available.
Wide receiver. Just get it right.
Yeah.
I think we're going to go with cornerback.
I really don't even care what position they draft. Just get it right. Just don't miss.
Yeah.
You think they stay at 12 or you think they move up?
I don't know if they're going to move up. They might move back.
Honestly, I'd prefer them to move back. If they could move back and pick up, more assets.
It could be a full tank year.
I'd be happy with a full tank year. A full tank year done well, I'd be happy with. Let's take a breather and try to do it the right way. The Eagles have their Super Bowl, and it's not like we're wasting Carson Wentz's prime. He's not here anymore. Jalen's young, so let's take a step back and do it right. I'd like that.
Well, let's not waste any more of our prime and go to penalty box.
All right, Dave, nice. I'm going to throw it right back to you.
Right?
I love that.
I'm working on it, but I thought that would be all 5 Flyers in the penalty box.
Yep. That made me happy. And Dave, what makes you happy or unhappy? Who is in your penalty box tonight?
Did anyone watch the Oscars on Sunday?
I did not.
No.
Look, all right. So my favorite category in the Oscars is the animated film category. And Sarah knew I was probably going to go here for this one. Now, last year, so 2 years ago when Into the Spider-Verse won, I was over the moon. Like, that movie was incredible. I felt like it should have been nominated for Best Picture, not just Best Animated. And I think the year before was Coco, or it might have been 2 years before, but Coco, I think, is maybe the greatest animated film of all time, in my opinion. And I thought that should have been nominated for Best Picture. But then some weird stuff started happening. And last year, when Toy Story 4 beat Klaus, Netflix's Christmas movie, that to me was an abomination and should never have happened, because Toy Story 4 is basically an hour-long Disney family special that got extended into a full-length film, and in my opinion was horrible. It should never even been made. It was a tight trilogy. Anyway, whatever. Should have never won Best Animated. Should have never won an Oscar for Best Animated Picture. This year, Pixar's Soul won Best Animated Picture over I don't even know who would have been in second place, but I felt that Cartoon Saloon's Wolf Walkers should have won. I believe that the Academy does not even watch these films anymore and just automatically gives them to Pixar. Anything that is nominated that is a 2D hand-drawn movie is basically spit upon in our society anymore. And there's some great work being done in the field of 2D animation. It's still a beautiful art form. You can still tell an amazing story. And if you have Apple TV, please check out Wolf Walkers and check out Cartoon Saloon, because they've done some incredible animated films over the years that just don't get the recognition because it's not computer generated Pixar, Disney regurgitated crap. Now, I will say, the animation of the piano playing in Soul is pretty incredible, but it's really not just all about how a movie looks. You have to look at the entire package and the entire story that is being told. And Wolf Walkers is hella cool. Please check it out. So I guess I'm putting Academy voters into the penalty box. So there we go.
All right, Academy voters. You're obsessed with 3D and Pixar. Appreciate a lovely Irish studio that makes lovely 2D films. Academy voters, you're getting a double minor for not appreciating 2D. Gene, who is in your penalty box?
So, in my penalty box is sort of a force of nature, for lack of a better way of putting it. So people are coming out of their houses now. I'm getting out more, walking the neighborhood, walking the hood. And I have to say, and maybe I'm a little bit biased because it truly did set back the lady in my life with a horrible allergy attack, but I'm sick and tired of fucking pollen, man. Like, the fucking coat of yellow dust that sits on my car is just an illustration of all of the shit that's in the air that I have to inhale. I like being able, now that the CDC has told me that if I want to go on a walk on my own, I don't have to wear my mask. But you know what? Today I kept my mask on because I didn't want to breathe in the goddamn pollen. So, tree reproductive organs, I'm putting you in the penalty box.
All right. So, if you're a tree and you want to perpetuate your species, Gene's got a problem with you. Tree pollen, get the hell out of here. You're making Gene sneeze. A 2-minute minor for mucking up the air with your tree spooge.
Sarah, who's in your penalty box?
Well, it's a night for non-sport penalty box people, and tonight I'm going with what I knew you guys would not pick, and it has to do with bronies. Are you guys familiar with bronies?
Yes, this is grown men who enjoy My Little Pony. I watched a documentary on it.
Oh, up until recently, I would have been interested in checking that out. My history with bronies.
Is it too late to edit that out?
There's no editing now. It is now.
No. When it comes to bronies, I heard of them. I heard that there was this adult male population that really liked the new version of My Little Pony. It's not new anymore. It's off the air. Actually, a friend of the show was a writer and editor, story editor on the show for a while, and it's actually a really good show. My family didn't start watching it until the pandemic, and before that, I think I watched one episode with the kids, and it was fine. But after really watching, it's actually very charming, very witty. So I could go, you know what? These bronies I heard of, they're fine. They make sense that an adult could like this show. And then the other day, there was the shooting at the Federal Express building. And apparently, the shooter was a brony. Obsessed with My Little Pony, had plenty of mental issues. There are a lot of things there, but this isn't about that. What it was that someone was calling out bronies for not keeping the Nazis off of their websites. Apparently, Nazi bronies have been a big issue for a while. Yes, Nazi bronies was a known about issue in the My Little Pony community.
Bronesies?
Maybe bronesies, but a lot of scolding of, nope, if you run a brony website and you turn a blind eye to Nazis, you run a Nazi brony website. And I swear to God, I knew that there was a movie coming out, and I was just like, hey, when's this movie coming out? And I'm bombarded with Nazi brony shit. So, for the bronies, especially the Nazi bronies, why the fuck do you exist? Bronies, you used to get a pass. I used to think you're charming, but if you can't stop the Nazis from taking over the bronies, then maybe we shouldn't have bronies. So bronies and Nazis, and especially Nazi bronies, You're getting a 10-minute game misconduct for even existing. Not Nazi bronies, get the fuck out.
I mean, just like all Nazis.
Yeah. No.
Whether you
Nazis,
like My Little Pony or not.
Nazi podcasters, Nazi bronies, Nazis, all of them can go.
I think I put Nazi bronies over regular Nazis, and I should probably just put it all on one level.
They're all bad.
Yeah, any sort of Nazis. It's a controversial statement, but Podadelphia is officially against Nazis. So no Nazi bronies.
We didn't even need to talk about that for the show.
Yeah.
All right, that's definitely all the time we have for today. Join us next week. We'll be recapping Eagles draft, more Phillies. The Sixers still fighting for that 1 seed, and oh man, was that Bucks Nets game? Is that tonight, Gene?
It's either tonight or tomorrow. You have to go and
check. So that's going to have huge implications, but it's really going to come down to the wire. So yeah, we'll be back next Tuesday. If you haven't done so already, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search Podadelphia. If you have any more time in your podcast listening day, be sure to check out the Whip Around for all the week's weird news, and be sure to follow the Painted Lines and check out the Painted Lines channel on YouTube for all your wall-to-wall Philly sports coverage. Until next week, have a great day at work, everybody. We are out of here.